Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to make your own rainbow brooch. They're really cute, really easy, and really just use up a lot of your scraps and bits and pieces you've got in your crafting box. So let's get started. We're going to make our cute little brooch, and this is a pastel one, but we're going to make a bright one today on this video. So the first thing you're going to need is some cord. Now it doesn't matter what size, mine's about 1/4 inch. But it can be fatter or thinner, and it doesn't really matter what it's made of. But you do want 4 lengths that are 3 inches long. And then you need to think about wire. Now, floristry wire or any other thin wire is perfect. So long as it bends easily and won't snap when you're bending it, it's perfect. We just don't want a really thick, heavy wire. So we want 4 lengths of that, but these are going to be 2 inches, 1 3/4, 1 1/2, and 1 inches long. You're going to need some embroidery threads. They don't need to be full skeins. You can have just little bits. Use what you've got. And the other thing is something to fasten your brooch on. So I'm going to use a safety pin and keep this inexpensive. But if you've got some brooch fastenings, they're ideal. So let's get started properly. We're going to do the top of the rainbow first, which means we need the longest piece of wire and one of our pieces of cord. And of course, the embroidery thread that you've chosen for the top. So I've chosen red. So the wire's going on the centre of the length of the cord. If you can put it up the middle of the cord, that's fine. If not, we're just going to put it next to the cord like I am. And you want to start wrapping your embroidery thread just beyond where the end of the wire goes, so that there is no chance of that wire popping out and catching you later. So once you've started wrapping, you need to just push your wire in a little bit and carry on wrapping so that it secures it in place. You'll see it can be a little bit fiddly to get started, but once you've got that wire in and secure, it becomes much easier. And you'll actually find you get into quite a rhythm, which you'll see in a moment. So you can see I'm just going back and securing the start and then keep wrapping. I do a single layer. I find that sufficient. If you want to do a double layer, you can do, or more. But what I would say is make sure your wrapping's very tight. You want it nice and tight. You don't want any big loops that you can catch on later or to look untidy. So just keep going nice and tight. I keep moving my hand up just so it makes it easier to work. And just keep going until you get to the other end of the wire. And the same as the other end, we want to go beyond the wire. So as you reach the end, you want to do a little bit more. You can see I'm just working out where to go to, checking where the wire end is, and then you can cut your thread off. Make sure you leave some because we need to tidy these ends in and secure them. So we're going to need enough to put through our needle. So you should now have the top. Let's secure the ends before they try and unravel. So get yourself a needle that's got an eye that's big enough for your embroidery thread. Make sure you're happy with where you've wound to. See, I'm just going to undo a couple there. I've gone a little bit too far. And then thread your needle. If you can. I always have trouble. Should use a needle threader really, and I do sometimes. And then push it through. Now just make sure that last loop pulls nice and tight where you want it to. And then pull your thread really tight. And then cut it off. And it'll stay nice and secure. Just like that. Because remember, everything's very tight in there. So there's nothing pulling it out. And then you're just going to repeat that process at the other end. Now I'm using an old needle that's really seen better days. But it has got a nice big eye, which means I can actually get the embroidery thread through it. So if you have trouble, it's not unusual. Remember, everything's very tight, so just persevere and get your needle through. And then you've got the top. So bend it to the shape you want your rainbow. And it is up to you how tight a curve you have. But I do recommend deciding now, so we can make sure the others are going to match it. So once you've done one, you need to do the other 3 in exactly the same way. And you can keep testing them against each other to make sure you do the right length. Also at this point, make sure you know what order you're doing your colours in so that you wrap the right one around the right length of wire. So as if by magic, mine will appear. And once you've got them all made, you can see I've got them approximately the same curve on them. And when they're in position, they all line up. So the next job is to sew them all together. So you just want an ordinary needle and thread. You don't need a great big one for this. It'll just make it harder. And you want to be sure that you've got that curve right. So now is the time to just tweak them and make sure you really are happy. Don't worry if there's little gaps between them. We can sort those out as we pull them together. But you do want approximately the right shape. Okay, and then you're just going to take the top two to start with, turn them over. Now, you've probably decided one side looks better than the other, so the side that doesn't look as good is going to be the back, and we're going to sew. So at one end, you're just going to get a little bit of the red and a little bit of the lilac. You can see I've put a knot on my thread just to hold it in place. And then a little bit of red, a little bit of the lilac, and just keep working your way along. So all you're doing is taking a little bit of each one, just a small stitch, and then pulling your thread tight. And it's just going to pull those two layers of your rainbow nice and close together. And it will mean you end up with a really good job and it'll look lovely on the front. So keep going. Oh, and don't worry if you're getting little bends and twists in your layers. Because you're holding it tight within your fingers, sometimes it'll get a little bend in it. We can take those out in a little while. And just work all the way to the end. Once you get to the end, you can secure it if you want with a little knot, but I tend not to. I just make sure it's all nice and tight. Lie it down on the table and make sure it's all flat and still the shape I want it to be. And then add the next one. So it's always that little check just to make sure I haven't done anything silly or bent it out of shape completely. And then this time, you'll not be surprised to learn, we're going to take a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of the lilac. And just repeat the whole process we did on the layer above. And work your way completely from one end to the other. Keep making sure that you're pulling it tight and that they're coming close together. If you're enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up so it spreads to more people, and let's fill the world with rainbow brooches. And keep going. And now you can see we've got 3 secure, and then you're just going to turn and go back and secure the 4th and final one. Notice I do keep just checking that it hasn't got too out of shape, because once you sew it, it might get difficult to bend it as much as you want if it's not already close. And then once we've finished, we're happy. Again, I'm checking they're all tight and secure. You're just going to finish your thread off. So simply do a little stitch and then put your needle through the loop. And then you can do another one just to be doubly sure, or you can leave it at 1. However you normally finish your stitching. I tend to do 2 just because I think it's a little bit more secure. And then cut off your thread. So you should now have a rainbow. But I don't think we've got our nice fluffy clouds yet. So the way I'd proceed is to trim my cords. You can see some of mine are quite different lengths. And what you want is them about the same length on either side and just nice and tidy, really. And you're going to have another opportunity to trim them, so don't stress too much at this point, but get them about the same. And then you're just going to take an ordinary comb to just comb those cords. Now I'm using the fat end of this comb first, and then I will use the thin end to make it even fluffier. But I just find using the fat end just stops it pulling and catching. It loosens it all up before you try the fine end. So you should be starting to get some nice fluffy clouds on the end. But you will pull a few little threads. So again, just trim them off. And you can see it's just a little bit of fluff that I'm trimming off this time. so that I've got pretty fluffy clouds. So again, put it down, it's looking the part. All it needs now is a way to fasten it onto my lapel or my jumper. So you can use a safety pin or a brooch fastening. It's basically the same way of fixing it on. And that is to take a little stitch in the back of the rainbow and then do another little stitch, but make sure the loop goes over the bar of the pin. Now, if you're using a brooch fastening, you might have little holes that you're sewing through. Whatever it is, you just need to make sure it's secure. And you need to make sure those loops are only going over the bit you want them to. I tend to use a double thread to make sure it's even more secure. You don't have to, it's up to you. But I do recommend you use plenty of stitches. You don't want your pin coming off or to lose your brooch while you're out. So you'll see that I'm working all the way from one end to the other and then all the way back again. Now, once you're happy that your pin of whatever description is secure, it's really important to finish off your thread well. So I recommend doing a couple of the little finishing off stitches where you put your needle through and then put it through the loop. And you could also push your needle through the rainbow and bring your thread out somewhere else and cut it off, and then it'll be really secure. What you will find is, look, as I am, a lot of it tries to loop up and make a mess. So just take your time, take more time than I'm taking to make sure those loops sit down nicely and you don't end up with a mess on the back. It's all too easy. So once you've done that, you just want to pop it down on the desk and flatten it down and make sure it's exactly the right shape and that you're happy with it. So I hope you've enjoyed making your brooch, and I hope you'll consider making different ones. You could make them a lot bigger by using different cord or by using a different number of layers. Or if you just made them longer and then bent them over more, you could have a tall, thin rainbow. Or how about making some really big ones and hanging them in a window? The sky's the limit, get creative. So there's lots of ideas for you there, and I hope you'll enjoy making some more. If you're looking for some more crafts, please check out the one on the screen and also the rest of my channel. You'll find there's lots of inspiration and lots of ideas for things to make on a budget. So thank you for watching, and please enjoy making them. Thank you.